Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom, and today we're talking about how to unleash the power duo of leadership and sales. And this is such an important conversation for us to have as we're diving deep into leadership this month, because if you want to sell anything, you have to be an effective leader. Leadership really is everything. Like we said it in our last podcast, like everything rises and falls on leadership. That's John Maxwell. So like if you want to be able to effectively enroll somebody, so like sales and enrollment, same thing. We're going to use those terms interchangeably. If you want to effectively enroll somebody into something, your offer, whatever that looks like, into making a decision, you have to be able to lead them effectively. If we just put our offer out there and say, all right, go figure it out, but we don't know anything about them or like what influences them, what their vision is, what's getting in the way. Like these are all things that we need to know and understand to lead them into making a decision. Whoever has the most leadership abilities, the ability to influence the other will win. Because so this could be when I'm talking about sales, like sales could be so many things. It could be you're doing a webinar and you're enrolling into a webinar. It could be you're doing a private sales conversation, like a sales call, that kind of thing. So today I'm like more speaking through the lens of that sales conversation, that sales call, but it could absolutely be applied to you doing a webinar or any kind of like sales mechanism. Okay. All right. So influence and persuasion. So every single person that is doing some form of sales, like you have to be able to influence the other person. Whoever is influencing the other person is going to win. So let's say I'm having a conversation with Sarah, right? She can influence me and lead me about her inability to actually take action, right? And she can enroll me into her limitations, let's say, because this will happen a lot. Like as you're having sales conversations with people, you're having enrollment conversations, she can either enroll me into her limitations of I can't do it because I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the resources, I don't have the, I have kids, I'm working a full-time job. I don't know if my husband will approve. I'm getting in my own way. I have my own limiting beliefs. Like, yeah, go on and so forth, right? She can enroll me into her limitations, or I can enroll her into her vision, which is ultimately like leadership. I enroll her into the vision of what she gets to create when I can help her get past all of these so-called limitations that she's putting on herself. Because the reality, when we think about it, we got to understand clearly what is the vision that this person has for their life? What do they ultimately want? If they want to go from where they are now, and let's say, like, I'm making an example for my hypothetical Sarah, she is like stressed out, she's overwhelmed, she is like really struggling with her business, let's say, and I have a solution that's going to help her go from the stressed out, overwhelmed to experiencing more peace, more calm, more joy, maybe more revenue, whatever that looks like. So this is the path. By getting her here, right? Will that help her with like the time management, all those things? Yes. So it's a matter of figuring out like what are the limitations that they're putting on themselves. We have to enter the conversation that they're having in their mind. And a lot of times that actually looks like asking them. So here's like a big one when you're having those sales conversations. It's speaking into the elephant in the room of like, you might say, let's say you drop the price of the program and they all of a sudden get quiet. That's when you can kind of speak into of like, all right, what's going through your mind right now? Like, I can see you're deep in thought. So it's kind of like speaking into like, I can see you're deep in thought, or I see your energy has shifted. What's going on? Like, what's the real conversation that we're having right now? If you can figure out how you can enter into that real conversation that they're having, that's when you have the ability to actually lead that person to take action. But if you aren't able to enter that conversation that they're having in their head, you'll never know what's actually going on. You won't know that they're thinking in their head of like, ooh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm underqualified, or whatever that is that you could potentially speak into if you don't get them to actually open up to you. Okay. All right. Next thing. So like influence is huge. We have to be able to figure out like what influences this person and speaking into that. Right. The next is being just a visionary thinker. And so we have to be able to, when we're having these conversations, of guiding the person to figure out what the vision is that they have for themselves. What is the vision that they have? And a lot of times when we're having these conversations, they might not know. They might have never actually thought about what they really want deep down inside. They never figured out like what their vision is. And so we need to be able to help them clearly articulate what they actually want, what the vision is, what is like their deepest core desire of what they want to create. Really, really important. The next thing is being able to just build rapport and build that relationship. So in terms of leadership, we need to look at how can we establish rapport right away and build trust and create those meaningful connections. So in this, so a few things here. This might look like rapport right off the bat of like, where in the world are you? I ask this question a lot when I'm on sales conversations because I genuinely want to know because I've been all over the place. I like, and they could be like right next door to me. Where in the world are you? And then I'll usually try to find like some connection point with where they're at. Oh, I'm in Minnesota. Oh, cool. My mom's actually from, Minneapolis, and we would drive up all the time and build these epic snow forts because Minnesota get a lot of snow. I remember being like build tunnels of snow. But establishing that rapport and that connection, not just like in the beginning, that part's important, but throughout the entire conversation. And if they're not ready yet, that's fine because they might not be ready yet at that moment. It's keeping the relationship going and genuinely caring about people and their vision and what they ultimately want. And it's a lot of times holding them to a higher standard because maybe they've set the bar too low for themselves. But we hold them up to their vision and say, this is what you told me that you wanted. You can actually create that. Like you can actually have that. They might not know that was actually possible for them, but it's like speaking life into their dreams of what they want to create and letting them know like it is actually possible, right? It is possible. Communication is another one. So effectively communicating with whoever it is that we're speaking with. And that could look like a lot of times it might look like actually speaking less and listening more in terms of letting them actually like speak out what's on their mind or speak their vision or speak whatever it is in that conversation that you're having. And so when it comes to effective communication, I think a lot of times we think about like all the things that we need to say, that we need to speak up. When in reality, a lot of times you're going to be a way more effective communicator if you learn how to shut your mouth and just to sit back and listen. And people will start to open up and say more. And then figuring out like how to ask better questions that will get them to open up even more. So tell me more about that. Why is that important? John Maxwell, we're going to talk about him every single time we do something on leadership. He has a book, I believe it's called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. I believe that's what it's called. But it's essentially like mastering the art of asking effective questions that are going to get people to actually respond back to you with what it is that you want to know, need to know to be able to effectively lead them. So it's a matter of, all right, we get to shut our mouths, we get to ask great questions and get them to open up and then just get them to dive deeper into that, right? Like, why is that important to you? Why does that matter? Okay. All right. So to wrap up, leadership and influence, like leadership and sales, this is so important. And again, we're talking about leadership all month long because this is such an important concept. But I'll add one thing to this. Whenever you go into these conversations, and this could be a webinar, it could be a sales conversation, like a private conversation, we go in with the intention of I'm going to lead. I'm going to lead these people today. I do this when I'm speaking on stage because before I would be like nervous of like, oh my gosh, what are they going to think about me? I'm going to be so awkward, which I always am. And instead of thinking about what are they going to think about me, I'm thinking of how can I lead these people today? I want to lead them. I want to show up powerfully and help them, understand the concept that I'm trying to share with them today. And if we just have that it's like that little shift in your mindset as you like enter into that conversation, you're going to show up differently. You're going to show up more powerfully. You're going to show up as an actual leader. Okay. I hope this was helpful for you. Make sure, if you are not yet subscribed to the She's Making an Impact podcast, you go ahead and do that. Leave a review. And as you leave your review, take a screenshot and then email it to us, clientcare@rachelandgomes.com. And I have a gift for you as a way to say thank you. And let's have a great week.